the richest person who ever lived. First, what is money? Money is a commodity accepted by general consent as a medium of economic exchange. It is the medium in which prices and values are expressed. It circulates from person to person and country to country, facilitating trade, and it is the principal measure of wealth. Here are the 5 most richest peoples who ever lived on the planet. 5. Augustus Caesar. He is the 5th most richest man who ever lived, with a net worth of $4.4 trillion. Originally named Gaius Octavius, he was born into an old and wealthy equestrian branch of the plebeian gens Octavia. His maternal great-uncle Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC, and Octavius was named in Caesar's will as his adopted son and heir. As a result, he inherited Caesar's name, estate, and the loyalty of his legions. He, Mark Antony and Marcus Lepidus formed the second triumvirate to defeat the assassins of Caesar. Following their victory at the Battle of Philippi, 42 BC, the triumvirate divided the Roman Republic among themselves and ruled as de facto dictators. The triumvirate was eventually torn apart by the competing ambitions of its members. Lepidus was exiled in 36 BC, and Antony was defeated by Octavian at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. After the demise of the second triumvirate, Augustus restored the outward facade of the free republic, with governmental power vested in the Roman Senate, the executive magistrates and the legislative assemblies, yet he maintained autocratic authority by having the Senate grant him lifetime tenure as commander-in-chief, tribune and censor. A similar ambiguity is seen in his chosen names, the implied rejection of monarchical titles whereby he called himself Princeps Civitatis, first citizen, juxtaposed with his adoption of the title Augustus. Augustus dramatically enlarged the empire, annexing Egypt, Dalmatia, Pannonia, Noricum and Rhaetia, expanding possessions in Africa, and completing the conquest of Hispania, but he suffered a major setback in Germania. Beyond the frontiers, he secured the empire with a buffer region of client states and made peace with the Parthian Empire through diplomacy. He reformed the Roman system of taxation, developed networks of roads with an official courier system, established a standing army, established the Praetorian Guard as well as official police and firefighting services for Rome, and rebuilt much of the city during his reign. Augustus died in AD 14 at age 75, probably from natural causes. Persistent rumors, substantiated somewhat by deaths in the imperial family, have claimed his wife Livia poisoned him. He was succeeded as emperor by his adopted son Tiberius, Livia's son and also former husband of Augustus' only biological daughter Julia. 4. Joseph Stalin. He is the 4th most richest man who ever lived, with a net worth of $7.5 trillion. Born to a poor ethnic Georgian family in the town of Gori in the Tiflis Governorate of the Russian Empire, now part of Georgia, Stalin joined the Marxist Russian Social Democratic Labour Party in 1901. He edited the party's newspaper, Pravda, and raised funds for Vladimir Lenin's Bolshevik faction via robberies, kidnappings and protection rackets. Repeatedly arrested, he underwent several internal exiles to Siberia. After the Bolsheviks seized power in the October Revolution and created a one-party state under the new Communist Party in 1917, Stalin joined its governing Politburo. Serving in the Russian Civil War before overseeing the Soviet Union's establishment in 1922, Stalin assumed leadership over the country following Lenin's death in 1924. Under Stalin, socialism in one country became a central tenet of the party's ideology. As a result of his 5-year plans, the country underwent agricultural collectivization and rapid industrialization, creating a centralized command economy. Severe disruptions to food production contributed to the famine of 1930–33 that killed millions. To eradicate accused enemies of the working class, Stalin instituted the Great Purge, in which over 1 million were imprisoned, largely in the Gulag system of forced labor camps, and at least 700,000 executed between 1936 and 1938. Stalin promoted Marxism-Leninism abroad through the Communist International and supported European anti-fascist movements during the 1930s, particularly in the Spanish Civil War. In 1939, his regime signed a non-aggression pact with Nazi Germany, resulting in the Soviet invasion of Poland. Germany ended the pact by invading the Soviet Union in 1941. After which Stalin joined the Allies of World War II as one of the Big Three. Despite initial catastrophes, the Soviet Red Army repelled the German invasion and captured Berlin in 1945, ending World War II in Europe. Amid the war, the Soviets annexed the Baltic states and Bessarabia and North Bukovina, subsequently establishing Soviet-aligned governments throughout Central and Eastern Europe and in parts of East Asia. The Soviet Union and the United States emerged as global superpowers and entered a period of tension, the Cold War. Stalin presided over the Soviet post-war reconstruction and its development of an atomic bomb in 1949. During these years, the country experienced another major famine and an anti-Semitic campaign that culminated in the Doctor's Plot. After Stalin's death in 1953, he was eventually succeeded by Nikita Khrushchev, who subsequently denounced his rule and initiated the de-Stalinization of Soviet society. Widely considered to be one of the 20th century's most significant figures, Stalin was the subject of a pervasive personality cult within the international Marxist-Leninist movement, which revered him as a champion of the working class and socialism. Since the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, Stalin has retained popularity in Russia and Georgia as a victorious wartime leader who cemented the Soviet Union's status as a leading world power. Conversely, his regime has been described as totalitarian, and has been widely condemned for overseeing mass repression, ethnic cleansing, wide-scale deportation, hundreds of thousands of executions, and famines that killed millions. 3. Akbar I. He is the third most richest man who ever lived, with a net worth of $21 trillion. A strong personality and a successful general, Akbar gradually enlarged the Mughal Empire to include much of the Indian subcontinent. His power and influence, however, extended over the entire subcontinent because of Mughal military, political, cultural, and economic dominance. To unify the vast Mughal state, Akbar established a centralized system of administration throughout his empire and adopted a policy of conciliating conquered rulers through marriage and diplomacy. To preserve peace and order in a religiously and culturally diverse empire, he adopted policies that won him the support of his non-Muslim subjects. Eschewing tribal bonds and Islamic state identity, Akbar strove to unite far-flung lands of his realm through loyalty, expressed through an Indo-Persian culture, to himself as an emperor. Mughal India developed a strong and stable economy, leading to commercial expansion and greater patronage of culture. Akbar himself was a patron of art and culture. He was fond of literature, and created a library of over 24,000 volumes written in Sanskrit, Urdu, Persian, Greek, Latin, Arabic, and Kashmiri, staffed by many scholars, translators, artists, calligraphers, scribes, bookbinders, and readers. He did much of the cataloguing himself. Akbar also established the library of Fateh-i-Sikri exclusively for women, and he decreed the establishment of schools for the education of both Muslims and Hindus throughout the realm. He also encouraged bookbinding to become a high art. Holy men of many faiths, poets, architects, and artisans all over the world adorned his court for study and discussion. Akbar's courts at Delhi, Agra, and Fateh-i-Sikri became centers of the arts, letters, and learning. Timurid and Perso-Islamic culture began to merge and blend with indigenous Indian elements, and a distinct Indo-Persian culture emerged characterized by Mughal-style arts, painting, and architecture. Disillusioned with Orthodox Islam and perhaps hoping to bring about religious unity within his empire, Akbar promulgated Din-i-ilahi, a syncretic creed derived mainly from Islam and Hinduism as well as elements of Zoroastrianism and Christianity. Akbar's reign significantly influenced the course of Indian history. During his rule, the Mughal Empire tripled in size and wealth. He created a powerful military system and instituted effective political and social reforms. By abolishing the sectarian tax on non-Muslims and appointing them to high civil and military posts, he was the first Mughal ruler to win the trust and loyalty of the native subjects. He had Sanskrit literature translated, participated in native festivals, realizing that a stable empire depended on the cooperation and goodwill of his subjects. Thus, the foundations for a multicultural empire under Mughal rule were laid during his reign. Akbar was succeeded as emperor by his son, Prince Salim, later known as Jahangir. 2. Emperor Shenon of Song. He is the second most richest man who ever lived, with a net worth of $30 trillion. Shenon has at times been counted amongst the three sovereigns, also known as three kings or three patrons, a group of ancient deities or deified kings of prehistoric China. Shenon has been thought to have taught the ancient Chinese not only their practices of agriculture, but also the use of herbal drugs. Shenon was credited with various inventions. These include the hoe, plough, both Lzi style and the plowshare, axe, digging wells, agricultural irrigation, preserving stored seeds by using boiled horse urine, the weekly farmers market, the Chinese calendar, especially the division into the 24 Jieki or solar terms, and to have refined the therapeutic understanding of taking pulse measurements, acupuncture, and moxibustion, and to have instituted the harvest Thanksgiving ceremony, Zaji sacrificial rite, later known as the Laji rite. Shenon can also be taken to refer to his people, the Shenonche, Chinese, Pinyin, Shenonshal lit. Shenon clan. 1. Genghis Khan. He is the first most richest man who ever lived, with a net worth of $120 trillion. This man also has an amazing record to be a person with the most children, by having 2,450 children. Born between 1155 and 1167 and given the name of Temujin, he was the oldest child of Yesurgai, a Mongol chieftain of the Borjigin clan, and his wife Holon of the Ilkhanate. Yesurgai died when Temujin was 8, and his family was abandoned by their tribe in the Mongol steppe. Temujin gradually built up a small following and allied with Jamaka and Togrul, two other Mongol chieftains, in campaigns against other tribes. Due to the erratic nature of the sources, this period of Temujin's life is uncertain. The alliances with Jamaka and Togrul failed completely in the early 13th century, but Temujin was able to defeat both and claim sole rulership of the Mongol tribes. He formally adopted the name Genghis Khan at Kurultai in 1206. With the tribes fully united under his command, Genghis Khan expanded eastwards. He vassalized the Western Xia state by 1211 and then invaded the Jin dynasty in northern China, forcing the Jin emperor to abandon the northern half of his kingdom in 1214. Mongol forces annexed the Karakutai Khanate in 1218, allowing Genghis Khan to lead an invasion of the neighboring Khwarezmian Empire the following year. The invading Mongols toppled the Khwarezmian state and devastated the regions of Transoxania and Khorasan, while an expedition penetrated as far as Georgia and the Kievan Res. Genghis Khan died in 1227 while besieging the rebellious Western Xia. His third son and heir Agidai succeeded to the throne 2 years later. The Mongol campaigns started by Genghis Khan saw widespread destruction and millions of deaths in the areas they conquered. The Mongol army he built was renowned for its flexibility, discipline, and organization, while his empire established upon meritocratic principles. Genghis Khan also codified the Mongol legal system, promoted religious tolerance, and encouraged pan-Eurasian trade through the Pax Mongolica. He is revered and honored in modern Mongolia as a symbol of national identity and a central figure of Mongolian culture.